Assalamu alaikum girls, I am Miss Saima Khan and today we will have the third lecture about atomic structure. Previously we have already done about the discharge tube experiment, discovery of electron, then we discussed the properties of electrons. After that we have discussed the E by M ratio, charge to mass ratio, and at the end Millikan's oil drop method. Now we are finished with the electrons. Today we will study about the protons, and in protons first of all we will study about their discovery, that protons, which are also known as positive rays or canal rays, these protons were first discovered by Goldstine in 1886. Now we can simply say that if we take a neon gas or any gas which we are going to keep it in the discharge tube and we knock out electrons from it, the leftover material is known as the proton, or is also known as positive rays or canal rays. We can represent it with the help of the equation, such as neon, when gives us neon as positive, that is the proton, and an electron is knocked out from it. Or you can say that if we take neon and minus electron from it, we are left with neon as a positive, that is the positive rays or canal rays. What is meant by this canal rays, or why are they said to be canal rays? Mostly this question comes in exams as short question that explain why positive rays are also known as canal rays. If you just see the diagram, we can see that there is a perforated cathode, and this perforated cathode basically is having holes in it. You can just imagine that you have a thick sheet with you, and in that sheet you have made holes. Something of smaller size can pass through those holes, which we are naming them as canal rays. Now if we just take this discharge tube, we have two electrodes, anode and the cathode. The cathode which is over there is having a perforation in them, so that whatever thing is present in the discharge tube of smaller size can pass through it if it is being attracted towards it. Any gas or air is kept in the discharge tube. This discharge tube will start its functioning by the high voltage. Current will flow and the gas or air, whatever is kept in it, will be ionized, that is, will convert into negative and positive charges. These negative charges are basically the cathode rays, or are known as electrons. Now the leftover material present is positively charged material. This positively charged material will be attracted towards the negative electrode, which is basically the perforated cathode. So all the positive rays will be going towards the perforated cathode and will pass through the holes. As these holes we are naming them as canals, so that's why they are also named as canal rays. So if it comes in exams that explain or give the reason that why are they named as canal rays, you have to tell the reason that as there is perforation in the cathode electrode and the rays or positive charges are passing through that perforations over there, so it is named as canal rays. If we just simply take any material, that is any atom M, and knock out electron from it, that is minus an electron from it, the leftover material is having a positive charge on it, that is M+. Suppose we take helium gas and we are knocking out electrons from them, that is helium minus 2 electrons. The leftover material would be helium plus 2. That is 2 electrons are lost and we are only left with the protons on it. So it is helium plus 2. Girls, all this is very important from your short question point of view. Mostly it comes in your short question. Now comes the properties of the positive rays or canal rays. First is that they travel in straight line perpendicular to the anode surface. If you remember in the previous lecture for the properties of the cathode rays, there too we have studied that they travel in straight line perpendicular. Over here too, only the changes of the anode and cathode, because they are basically, positive rays are basically having a positive charge. So when they are moving in the opposite direction against the anode towards the cathode, they are moving in straight lines. Second is, they can be deflected in electrical field. It means that if electric current is passed separately and these rays or these particles are supposed to pass through them, all of them will be attracted towards the negative electrode, that is the cathode, because they themselves are positively charged particles. So they will be attracted towards the opposite electrode, that is negative electrode, the cathode. Third point is, their deflection is towards cathode, showing that they are positively charged particles. Fourth is, they produce flashes on zinc sulfide plate. Suppose say that the discharge tube which you have with you and cathode rays as well as these positive rays are produced in it. When they are moving towards the opposite electrodes, they are going and hitting them and are being attracted towards them. As we have said that cathode rays have negative charge on them, so they will be attracted towards the positive electrode, and positive rays or the protons will be attracted towards the opposite charge electrode, that is cathode. And outside, if we place the zinc sulfide plate, flashes means that light would be appearing or something glowing would be over there, indicating that something is hitting and making it heat or friction over there. Fifth point is, their E by M ratio is smaller than that of an electron. E by M means charge to mass ratio is smaller than that of an electron. How is it proved? If we just study the next point, it will be very clear to you that how is it smaller or how can it be larger. But this can be one of the objectives over there, that E by M ratio of, suppose say they have written that E by M ratio of positive rays are dash than that of the electrons. They can give you the options as smaller, larger, equal, or none of the above. So you have to remember that their E by M ratio is smaller than that of electron. Next is that E by M ratio depends on the nature of the gas. This point is really very important. Nature of the gas. What is meant by nature of the gas is that its property and main property is that about its atomic mass. One atom differs from another in its atomic number as well as in its atomic mass. Basically, positive rays or the nucleus is having the total mass of an atom, that is protons plus neutrons give the mass of the atom or of the protons over there. So E by M, that is charge to mass ratio, depends on the nature of the gas. This can be another objective over there. They can ask you that E by M ratio of positive rays are dash on the nature of the gas, dependent, independent, something like that. So it depends on the nature of the gas. Highest the E by M ratio is that of hydrogen gas. Now we will prove that how is it that hydrogen has the highest E by M ratio when hydrogen atom itself is smaller. E by M basically means that it is charge to mass ratio. Charge, whether it is of any atom, such as we can say that it can be hydrogen atom, it can be helium, neon, any atom, charge would remain the same, whether it is proton or an electron over there. Charge will remain the same. Only the thing which will vary would be its mass. So, it is just written over there. You can see that the E, that is charge of the proton or positive rays, is same for all the atoms or the gases, and for our own convenience or for our solution, so that you can understand all this very well, we can just assume or we can suppose that it is +1. Now, the M, we have said that it is E by M. So, what is this M? It is varies depending upon the mass of the atom. That is, it depends upon the atomic mass. Hydrogen, helium, neon, all of them would have their own masses. That is, mass of the nucleus, protons and neutrons. Such as for hydrogen it is 1, helium is 4, neon is 20. Now if we just place all these values in E by M, we can calculate these ratios and find out that which of them would have the smallest and which of them would have the highest E by M value. If you just place all these values for hydrogen, helium and neon, that is for hydrogen +1 by 1 and for helium +1 by 4, for neon as +1 by 20, different values are coming up. That is for hydrogen it is 1, for helium it is 0.25 and for neon it is 0.05. It means that higher or larger the atomic mass, smaller would be its E by M value. Smaller the mass, larger would be its E by M value. This is very important objective as well as your short question over there. They can ask you in short question that why hydrogen has the smallest E by M, has the highest E by M value. Sorry, it isn't the smallest, it has the highest E by M value. Because it has the smallest mass, so it has the highest E by M value. Or they can ask you in your objectives, they can give you all the atoms with their atomic masses and ask you that which of them would have highest or smallest E by M ratio. So instead of calculating at that time, you can just save your time by just seeing that the atom which has the highest mass would have the smallest E by M ratio. Basically, you can say that both of them are inversely proportional to each other. If E by M ratio is larger, it means the mass must be smaller. And if E by M ratio value is smaller, it means that its mass is larger over there. This is very, very, very important point. Next is the mass of positive particles is never less than that of a proton. Definitely the smallest particle or the mass which is present over there is that of the protons over there and neutrons. So it can never be less than a proton over there. It can be more but never less than that of a proton. Eighth point is positive particles obtained from hydrogen gas is lightest among all the positive particles. This is the same point as that of point 6. Only the wordings are changed. Basically, it means the same as that of point 6. Ninth point is a particle obtained from positive rays is called proton. This was suggested by Rutherford. 10th is mass of proton is 1836 times than that of the electron. That is 1836 times it is larger and 1836 times electron is smaller. I hope so that all this proton or the positive rays or the canal rays is clear to you, and all of it is very important. Next is discovery of the neutrons. Until 1932, only electrons and protons were discovered, and only these two particles were considered as the atomic particles. But it was said that no, something else must be present over there, and particularly Rutherford in 1920 predicted. He wasn't able to explain it with the help of the experiments. He just predicted that something would be present in the atom, because mass of an atom is not that of only of protons. It is more than that of the protons. So he just suggested that there must be something, but it won't be having any charge, because protons are positively charged, electrons are negatively charged. Overall, an atom is neutral. So he said that something neutral must be present in an atom, and which is contributing to the atomic mass. Later on, James Chadwick in 1932 performed the experiment, and with the help of an experiment he proved that only protons and electrons are not the main particles of an atom. Rather than something neutral is also present in an atom, which is known as the neutron. If you just see that the experiment which Chadwick has done it was that he took polonium source as an alpha rays. Polonium source in which alpha rays are present. Polonium is a radioactive element, and it is continuously giving out alpha rays in all the directions. Alpha rays are quite dangerous, so all the radioactive materials, and particularly in this experiment, polonium is kept in a lead chamber, so that if any of the rays, that is alpha rays, are coming out, they are not coming out from it, rather than they are directly present in that chamber. Now, in front of the polonium, he kept beryllium as a target, and alpha rays were coming and hitting beryllium. After the hitting of beryllium, these rays passed out, and he saw that something was coming out, and that was having a neutral charge. It was not even deflected by a positive or negative electrode. Rather than something neutral was present which was coming out, and it was having a quite deep penetration, because if a paraffin or a saturated hydrocarbon is kept in front of it, it is going to penetrate in it, and all of it was then collected. These neutrons which were coming out from it, they were collected in a chamber, cloud chamber, and later on, with the help of the detectors, it was detected that they were not having any charge on them. In this experiment, an equation is written over there. You can see that if we take beryllium having atomic number 4 and atomic mass as 9, if bombarded with alpha rays, basically what are alpha rays? They are helium nuclei. That is, helium 2 is the atomic number and 4 is the atomic mass. if alpha rays or helium nuclei are bombarded on beryllium metal, then they convert it into a new substance and neutron is given out, that is carbon 6 atomic number and 12 atomic mass. Along with that, neutron 01 is given out. Because this equation is very important, mostly it comes in exams that write the equation and draw the diagram, or they can even ask you to explain the experiment of Chadwick. So all of it is very important. Now comes the properties of the neutrons. If we just see the properties, first of all is that free neutron decay into proton with the emission of electron and neutrino. If you remember, in the very first lecture, we have discussed the subatomic particles, that only electron, proton and neutron is not present, rather than other substances are also present, and there we studied that neutrino is one of the subatomic particle. So this second point is that if we take neutron and it decays with the passage of time, radiations or particles are given out from it. The first one is that a proton is given out, that is P11, as well as an electron is given out, that is E-1 and 0. Along with that, neutrino, another small atomic particle, N00 is given out. Third point is that they cannot ionize gases. Why cannot they ionize gases? Because they have a high penetrating power ability. That is, they go deep into the cell or into an atom and dissociate or work on the nucleus rather than working on the electrons or ionizing them or knocking out the electrons from them. So this point is very important as compared to electrons and protons, because there we studied that they have ionizing power, but neutron does not have ionizing power. Fourth point is they are highly penetrating particles. This can be one of the objectives also, that neutrons are dash penetrating, high penetrating power, low penetrating power. All these things can come in your objectives as well as your short questions that explain why. So whatever is present in your book, you have to learn it and give reasoning so that when you have to write it, you can write it easily. Fifth point is when neutrons travel with energy of 1.2 mega electron volt, that is high energy, or more than that, they are known as fast neutrons, while the low neutrons are below 1 electron volt, they are known as slow neutrons. Simply they can ask you that categorize neutrons depending upon their speed or energy. So you can say that neutrons are of two types, fast neutrons and slow neutrons. Fast neutrons will have high energy, that is, it can be up till 1.2 mega electron volt or more than that, and slow neutrons will be having 1 or below that value. This is one of the very important point. Next is they are not deflected in electrical or magnetic field. Because what is the reason? Because they are neutral in nature. This can be another short question, that why are they neutral, or how is it proved that they are neutral? Because they are not deflected by electrical or magnetic field. Next is that they can knock out high speed protons from paraffins. What are paraffins? Paraffins are saturated hydrocarbons, that they have little affinity for changing because they are already bonded to other atoms and their valency is satisfied. Single bonds are present in them. Paraffins, water, paper and cellulose. From these, high speed protons are knocked out, So something new appears over there. Eighth is that slow neutrons are more effective than the fast ones, particularly for fission purpose. Fission means dissociation purpose. Mostly this question also comes in your objectives, that which one is more effective, fast neutrons or slow neutrons. Ninth is that when neutrons, basically we are studying two types, fast neutrons and slow neutrons. First we will study about the fast neutrons and then about the slow neutrons. So when neutrons are used as projectile, that is they are moving quite faster or quickly, they can carry out nuclear reactions. What type of nuclear reactions? That suppose we say that we have nitrogen 7 atomic number, 14 atomic mass, and they are being hit by fast moving neutrons. What would be the change which they will bring? They will convert that nitrogen to boron 5 atomic number and 11 atomic mass with helium 2 atomic number and 4 atomic mass, or you can even say that alpha rays are given out. Sometimes they ask you that prove by the help of an equation, or prove that after the hitting of neutron, alpha rays are given out or helium nuclei are given out. Girls, remember that directly if I am telling you that this question can come, this question can come, it's not necessary that I can tell you for each and everything. Each and every point is very important. You have to make questions of your own in such a way that if I am making a sentence that this can come, it can come in another way, it can come in any other way. So main thing is knowing that all these are very important points they can ask you in your exams. Okay, next is that now first we have just studied that for the fast moving neutrons. Now for the slow moving neutrons, what would be the effect? That if we take slow moving neutrons and it hits copper metal, what radiations are given out? Beta radiations are given out. That is, if we take copper 29 atomic number and 65 atomic mass and it is hit by a neutron, then slow moving neutron, zinc 30 atomic number and 66 atomic mass, along with that an electron with a -1 and 0, that is beta rays are given out. Sometimes they can ask you that what would be the effect of a neutron when it hits a smaller atomic number and a larger atomic number, or they can ask you that what would be the effect when a slow moving neutron hits and a fast moving neutron hits, or they can even ask you that if a neutron is hitting any atom, how it can give out its beta rays, or how it can give out its alpha rays or helium nuclei. Different questions can be asked from the same one topic. So this point is also very, very, very important. Because of their these neutrons' intense biological effect, they are used for the cancer treatment. I hope so that all of it is very clear to all of you. So next we will study for the next lecture. Thank you, girls.